Dubai Startup Grind is a chapter I've been kind of co-leading for last close to 4 years. We've done a mix of virtual events and in-person events. We've hosted several parties as well. So very excited to touch on the topic today, especially given the various different challenging environments we're living in, and how a personal story can actually help you cross the barrier or cross the strait, if I can say jokingly, right? Without any blockade. A story can actually help you win friends with heart, and that's what we're gonna learn today. Before giving you a quick introduction about who we are as Startup Grind. So if we can go to the next slide. So Startup Grind is a world's largest community of startups, founders, innovators, creators, investors, a global ecosystem. Each year, and at the end of this month, we host a global conference in Silicon Valley in Redwood City. Unfortunately, due to the situation, I have to miss this year, but I've been going there for last 4 years. It's a very large community. We focus on various topics each month. 5 million plus entrepreneurs, 600 chapters, almost 150 plus are super active chapters, spread across 125 countries. And conference attendees are anywhere between 10 and 20,000. We invite a lot of startups. A lot of startups win tickets to actually present at the Startup Grind Global Conference, which is happening 29th and 30th of this month. I'm also very fortunate to be co-hosting along with different chapters today. And some of our chapters I would like to announce and thank them in advance. We have Doha, Toronto, our chapter Dubai, Singapore, Rochester, Isle of Man, Warsaw in Poland, Manila, Valencia, Tunis, and yesterday we also had from China, from Guangzhou. So we are very happy to be co-hosting Singapore in a lot of other chapters across the world. So you will see multiple attendees. If you, Rochester, New York, and I see people from all over, right? So please introduce yourself. Which location are you from? We have Can joining from Startup Grind Istanbul, which is fantastic. Thanks, Can. And so what we're gonna, it's a global startup community. We bring all people together. Startup founders tell their stories, and it's more of learning and sharing our values. Next slide. Our values are super simple. When you become a part of the community, we always want to help others. The first value is helping others before yourself, right? When you travel in a plane, if there is an emergency situation, they say, you put the mask on other people before you put your mask, and then jump out of the plane, right? So that's the same values we're carrying forward. Give first before you take. And these are some of the values we want to, inculcate in our community. This is very important. The world is changing so rapidly that people are becoming greedy. The give first attitude is going. So we want to encourage people, founders, startups, investors to give first before you take. And don't just make contacts, make friends for life. And this is the most core value of our community. Let's go. Our programs are curated with partnerships. We have very strong partners, our anchor partners. We have startup memberships, and we are rolling out some membership options as well as we go along. We have content partnerships. Again, this is more visible during the conference. And then we do a lot of curation of local events. If you go to YouTube and see a playlist called Divot, DIVOT, you will see the founder and CEO of Startup Grind, Derek Anderson, interviewing some of the best people, founders, investors, creative people on the planet under Divot. This is a very awesome podcast. I would also like to introduce the team. Myself, Samir, I'm the chapter co-director. I have Christina with me. She's the director here. And I have Ada, who's also a community and partnerships lead. But Ada does fantastic work with her own company, Pitch Deck Studios. And she joined us about 5 months ago to help with community and partnerships. So we're very warm welcome to all around the world. Please mention your LinkedIn in the chat and feel free to connect yourself. I think this is the forum why you're here, right? So welcome everyone. Welcome Ada, and thank you for hosting this session as well. Thank you for being a speaker at this session. Let's go to your you have actually expanded your business magically across the globe. Plus, you are a person who loves adventure. So let's learn from your stories itself on how storytelling works for startups, and what is it that should stick when you're building a story. So I would love to call you on stage to kind of present the deck. Ara, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm going to introduce myself in a second, telling a story as well. But I just wanted to start, guys, with asking you a question, which will help me through this presentation when I see your answers in the chat, maybe to navigate and maybe to give you some more examples or maybe to highlight some parts. And then it will help me also in the future to create better presentations. So we're going to talk about storytelling for startups, how to build a story that customers, teams, and investors believe in. So I worked with around 4,000 companies as a company, and myself also pretty much a few hundred for sure. And I see I see many patterns that are repetitive along the way for many different people, no matter what industries they are at or no matter which locations they are at. So the question for you today is if you can write in the chat what part of storytelling or pitching feels hardest for you right now. And normally I'm doing this presentation and this workshop in person, and then we can interact a little bit and chat, with our colleagues or with other people who are at the event and connect this way and maybe brainstorm. But I think it would be nice to connect, as Samir mentioned perfectly, as those are one of the values of a startup grind, to build a connection and to start understanding other people and how we can help each other. So guys, please be active and communicate in the chat, since this is our way to go between us. So let's start. Storytelling for startups. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I really got into the storytelling. So that's me. A few years ago, I was doing this crazy thing called wing walking, so flying on the acrobatic airplane. And I remember myself thinking, oh my goodness, is ever going to be an incredible story to share with my family, friends, and people on Instagram, or a very short one that I won't be able to share? Well, I always loved adrenaline and I've always been into many different experiences. But over time, I realized that what makes those moments meaningful, not only extreme, is not just what happened, but it's how we remember them and how we talk about them. And this became one of the biggest lessons in my work as well. So before starting Pitch Deck Studios, I worked in the film industry. At the beginning, I was a person behind the scenes, organizing the film sets, fixing the budgets, chasing the actors, all the dirty work and fixing the chaos. After a while, I moved into the business part of the film industry, and my job became actually pitching projects to investors. And I remember the first few film festivals and markets. I went with a slate of around 20, 25 projects, which were really amazing. Great cast, great directors, writers attached to the project. And I was just so excited and telling everybody about them, but nobody was interested. So after a few, let's say, months of failing, of not getting any interest in those beautiful projects, I realized that I need to change the strategy. So, well, first to blame were the pitch decks which I was presenting. So what I did, I started working on them and remaking them, not only to make them looking nicer, but also changing the flow, changing the structure, and also understanding that it's so important who I'm pitching to and what I'm telling them. So depends. If I was pitching a project to Netflix, I was highlighting different things than if I was pitching to the Hong Kong local TV network channel. And this actually worked out. I managed to produce the first few projects in the first couple of months. We got the deal signed, and again, I realized that the ideas and the projects were good, but they were just not communicated in the right way to the right people. So I understood that this problem was in the film industry, this problem was in the marketing, and this problem also is a problem that is touching startups and founders. And fast forward today, through my journey of working with different industries, at Pitch Deck Studios, we worked on around 7,000 presentations. And I see it all over and all over again, that people are so focused on building amazing products or offering great services, but they really struggle to explain what they do in the way that can help them. Sorry, I forgot. That it can actually help them to get attention, to close the deals, to make people interested in what they're doing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Why the storytelling is important. So, why stories are the most powerful tool a founder has. So, why I'm showing you guys this image. For the most of the human history, our survival depended on the thing, on the stories, on passing the right story. So imagine that you're one of the guys sitting at this bonfire with a very simple language, and somebody's telling the story. A group went into this direction to the mountains, and some of us, they ate berries of a weird shape growing on this bush, which was between tree and the rock, and they died. They never came back. So we are back, and we're telling you the story. So those who heard and remembered it and understood it, they survived, and those who didn't, they didn't. Well, this is the natural selection, and why I'm saying it, this is how our brains were shaped. This is how we make sense of the world. This is how we remember. This is how we make the decisions. So the weird thing happens. I think it's still in the friendly, casual context. We are still operating on our natural level. We come back home and we tell our family or we tell our friends the story, what happened today. But once we're in more of a business context, we're just getting so stressed and we completely forget that this is how our brain works and this is how we should communicate. And instead of telling the stories, we just list the features, we just talk in bullet points, and we just try to sound impressive. A little bit more of a science behind the stories. The first one is a great one. It's a very big research done. The stories are 22 times more remembered than facts. So such a big number. Remember, if you go to the room or you're on a call and you're pitching to somebody, you're not only boring and more engaging, but you're 22 times less remembered if you would be telling the story. Secondly, another very good research, when we tell the story, the oxytocin is released. And if there are some parents on the webinar today, you probably know, but it's a hormone that is released very often, when you're hugging, when we're our kids, between mom and the child. That's something that helps us to build connection. That's something that is making us more empathetic. That's something that builds trust. And trust, it's a keyword here, because if people trust us, they are more likely to go with us, to say yes, to buy the product. Another point. And another great research telling that by listening to the stories, especially with a human in the center of the story, we actually synchronize our brainwaves with another person who is telling the story. And we are far more likely to make decisions and to behave in the same way as another person. So, yeah, just to sum it up, stories change how we think, feel, and decide. So they don't just inform in a nice, engaging way, but they transform us and other people. That's why this topic is so important today. But why most of startup messaging gets ignored? Well, today's world, it's actually a very crowded place. And the truth is that you are not competing only with other startups or with other companies which are in your category. You are competing with Netflix, with sports, with social media, what is on Twitter today, with your friends sending you silly cats on Instagram. Just everything, it's fighting for our attention, for our customers' attention. So it means that your job is not just to explain people what to do. You need to actually get them out of autopilot. Need to get them understand what you're doing and engage with what you're doing. And it's both for the consumer business and B2B companies. So the first mistake, which I'm seeing, and you'll laugh when you see it as well. I love this website. First of all, so branding, it's actually a part of our story. But most of the founders, especially when you're just starting the business, you're starting the company, they think of branding simply as a name, logo, and the website. And I know that you guys are very busy with building the product, hiring, fundraising, calls, lots of things during the day. And there is our friend, our colleague AI, which is creating content for us, which is creating logotype in 5 minutes, a website in 15 minutes, and a pitch deck in another 25. But what's happening then? We are overloaded with the content of websites, marketing content, or pitch decks that all sound the same. It's generic language. Like you can change the logotype and you still don't know what company it is. Like I like this example. You can see here, we are a next generation platform leveraging scalable solutions to disrupt yada, yada, yada. It could be anything. It could be any SaaS tech companies actually. And unfortunately, I don't know how about you, probably the same. I'm seeing it quite a lot. I'm receiving quite a lot of websites or pitch decks, but I swear, without PhD or AI, you cannot decode what exactly they do. It's just so complex, or with so much jargon, or with so much just vague, meaningless phrases. So first of all, first mistakes, very easy fix. Just don't try to overcomplicate things. Don't try to sound impressive. Don't try to sound sexy sometimes. I see a lot, for example, we are architects. We are the architects of the ecosystem. A lot of phrases which are getting now repetitive because we use AI, but they don't bring any meaning. So in all your content that you're creating, posting, using, talking to people, don't try to sound too professional, because you just need to make people understand what you do. If they don't understand what you do, they don't want to engage. So instead of thinking, does it sound impressive enough? Just think, if my mom would make sense out of it, if my friend would understand it, if I would tell it to him. If not, you just need to change it. Second mistake that we're going to get to, I'm going to give you guys a lot of examples today, and I hope that you can relate it with the things that you're seeing or maybe with your own brand, because as always, it's the easiest to understand the theory on the examples. So here are the two websites that I actually found online, which are presenting pretty much very similar or almost the same product, but in a different way. Let's not look at the design of those websites completely, but the content. So many of the companies, they talk too much about themselves. For example, here on the left, it is a very small text, but the company on their website just at the beginning is just telling how they were founded, how innovative they are. They tell like where the founders worked before. Amazing, they are brilliant, but it's not interesting for me. I'm interested in the product. While the website on the right, it's actually talking to you, to me as a customer. What is my problem? How they solve this problem? Giving me examples so I can right away, it can click in my head how I can use this solution. So instead of explaining like on the left, and explaining it's not wrong, we can also do it, but you need to think about the order of the things. You need to think of the order of your communication. The website on the left, it's more explaining. The website on the right, it's more of storytelling. So on the left, here are our features. On the right, here is a problem, here is your struggle, here is how we're going to help you. Explaining, it's actually talking to our rational mind, while storytelling, it speaks to our emotions first. And as you know from the beginning, this is very important to really engage the person. And this is exactly why the storytelling, it's so powerful, because people just get interested before they realize it. And another example which I really like, which is showing what I just mentioned, that's a company called Hedwig. It's an insurance company. So, for example, they advertising content, it's always extremely emotional. It's just stuff. They practice a little bit of a non-attachment on us here. But when you go to their website, which is on the right here, you can see clearly that it's very functional. But still, there is no jargon. It's really, there is simply explain. So this is the idea. You start with emotional and with a high level, and then you dive into the functional when needed, when you need to close the deal, when you need to explain. As I say, explain. Nothing wrong with explaining. Just do it in the right moment. And what I'm talking all about here, it's easy to explain on the B2C products or services, but it also applies to B2B. Another example, the last one in that section, I promise, is a case study. It's Actifio. Not sure if you guys know this brand, maybe people in tech, yes. This is actually a massive enterprise data management company. So at the beginning, they were describing themselves in a very technical, very difficult to understand way. A protection and availability storage platform that pioneered the industry first storage system, yada, yada, yada. While they started working on this story with amazing expert who interviewed many people in the company. They started digging what the company is doing indeed, and they translated it into a very simple language. So imagine that you're taking a photo on your mobile phone. The photo takes maybe 2 megabytes, and then you're posting it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It goes to Google, it goes to your iCloud, it goes to 5 different databases. And out of a sudden, out of those 2 megabytes, it's maybe 12 or 20 megabytes all over. And now imagine the same thing happening with a massive Oracle database of 16 terabytes, which multiplied, it's turning into a gigantic file. So they create the golden standard. They create actually the one master copy, which is then just shared with other platforms. And in this way, everybody, even my mom, can understand what the company does. They started to communicate this way, and if you know them, they eventually reached the unicorn. They became the unicorn, and they were acquired by Google. So big success, all of course based on amazing product, but also on the storytelling. How many customers they were able to onboard, how well they were able to communicate to the world, to investors, and so on. So why a strong brand story sells an idea, not just a feature? Why it operates about the level of the features and so on? Because this is very simple. The features can be copied. The things like price, speed, quality, this is all that somebody can always do better. Somebody can always be cheaper, can be faster. But the mindset, the mission, the set of values, the culture that is built around the company, this part cannot be copied. So the part that you usually use when you're explaining what you do, it's just what your product do. But what should really define your brand and how you're talking a brand, it's why does your product exist and why I should care. And we're going to jump into that in a second. Well, I was just skip this one for now. Why your story is also your strategic asset. First of all, starting from inside of the company, it helps with the internal alignment. So the story, it's your North Star. It helps all your team to understand what you're doing, to make the faster decisions, to build the product and create the features of a product, knowing what exactly is the mission and what exactly is the goal. Thanks to the story, everybody is on the same page. Everybody is moving into the same directions. Another one, external one, it's the consistency. So your website, decks, all sales materials, it all must be aligned. And if it's not, you actually can break the trust. And I like to say as an example here, imagine that you're on a date with somebody and this person seems really very nice, very kind, very loving, and then suddenly is rude to the waiter. So you're watching them and you're starting questioning if what you thought about this person is actually true. And the same is happening with the brand. People just lose the trust in what you're doing. And the third one, which I think it's probably the most important, your story, it's actually your engine of growth. So as I mentioned, the feature can be copied, but ideas spread. Ideas get viral. People are posting, for example, let's say you're buying shoes, you're posting the photo of yourself in the shoes, not because they have amazing stitches or amazing foam density and its new model. No, you are a sports person. You consider yourself as belonging to a certain category, to belonging to a certain culture. I'm a Nike person. I'm Adidas person. Those things go viral, and those things make people also share what you're doing. Not only a cool feature, but the whole set, the whole build up. And also another thing, like let's say you're talking about your company, how long you can talk about the features before somebody gets bored. You're at the conference, you're at the networking, you start listing what your app is doing or what your software is doing, how amazing it is. People just switch off in a second. But if you're coming from the point of what is my mission, what is the problem that I'm solving, it's completely different. You can just talk about it in so many different ways, and it can create so many different conversations. You can actually connect with people talking about problems and solutions and your founder story and so on.
I wanted to take a moment, Ada, on especially on the consistency part and on the one off-note moment for breaking trust. I was reading an article where one of the big tech companies, the board approved the hiring of a very senior another board member. The CEO was good in the books. Now, so everything was good. Um, and then what happened is they called a few people who interacted with this board member, and one of them was a driver who was driving him from the airport to the headquarters in DC, and the driver was asked a simple question: how did this board member was with you? Because they had already made a decision to hire this person, but the driver said that he was very rude to this driver and from the airport, and they couldn't coordinate everything well, and just because of that, the trust in the whole system was broken because he was rude to one person. And so things happen like this when some of the external factors which are out of your control are not consistent with your company's culture can create breakout trust. So yeah, over to you back.
Yeah, this is a great example. I agree. And if you guys have more examples or something that you want to touch upon, please also write in the touch in the chat, and we can just come back to that later. Yeah. So trust, it's so important. That's true. But getting back to the features, before we jump into more, let's say, hands-on part, which I know that maybe few of you will be looking forward to, I just wanted to show you an example. And I know that it's a big brand, and I know that this is an ad, but this is just an example of you do not need to show a product while you're talking about your brand. So here we have
being aware is a curse.
Nike ad.
It doesn't matter how much you've won before. You're not a winner until you win again. And again. And again. Nothing is enough. No one understands. And you never want it to stop.
So it's featuring the LeBron James, of course, the big guy, and it's a Nike app, but the point is they don't show not even one close-up of the shoes that they are selling. They don't need to. They show a story, they show a person, they show a person in a fight, and you can do the same. Even if your brand is not recognized yet, you do not need to start with a product. You can start with a story in all your materials. This is advertising. You can do the marketing the same on social media, but also pitching. When you're pitching to the investors, which you're going to get to in a second, you don't start with your product usually. You just start with a bigger picture, with some character, with some problem. So yeah, the product is still there, but it's not the point. The story, it's always the main point. So this was a little bit of a let's say the theory, and now I have few exercises for you, and I will explain you the things that I know that many people are struggling with. So how to create a one-line explanation people remember. I see that it's actually a very common problem. I attend a lot of events, a lot of networkings, a lot of conferences, and I usually just jump from the stand to the stand and talk to different founders, to different people. And usually at those events, of course, you start with a little small talk, but very quickly you get into, so what do you do? What does your company do? And people don't have time to have half an hour chat. Usually you have just few minutes. And in those few minutes, you can either get somebody's interest and make them connect. Maybe they think, oh, maybe I can do something with this person. Or even if not, it's like, wow, this is actually a very interesting what they do. Or you can just make them say, hey, thank you, and not even exchange a business card. And I've been seeing it a lot. Founders do many different things. Either they just start talking in too much detail from the beginning without giving the full picture, or they start talking too much about themselves maybe, which is great to start with a founder story also, but you just need to know how to communicate and when to switch. So that's why I want to give you today a few frameworks that you can use to create just a one-line explanation that people remember and understand right away what your company does. And I have to say that it looks easy, but it's not easy. I did it with many different people doing this workshop, and usually the first answer, the first sentence that is coming up, it's still not there. So the first one, the framework, which I really like, is pretty much separating, giving 4 things in one sentence, 4 most important things in one sentence. So you start with a character, and the character is your customer. Then you go to the problem. So you really, in a very short way, you tell what they are experiencing. Solution, and here comes your product. Without giving too much detail, I would say. Then we finalize with a success. So just briefly, what's going to change after somebody will use your product or your services. As an example, somebody running the Pilates studio, instead of I run a gym, could say, we provide busy moms with a short, fun workout they can use to stay healthy and have renewed energy. And we had all of those points here. And then the second framework, which I also really like, which is even easier, it's we are the best way to feel so that you can, So you're explaining what you're doing, and you're explaining the success, what will be the outcome of using what you're doing. And why this one-liner is so important? Exactly because it's a starting point of your story, and it helps you to align. As an example here, this would be the Snapchat one-liner. We are the best way to share your daily life so that you can deepen your relationships with the people who matter most. And this was the one-liner. So look at it. It doesn't tell about the feature of disappearing photos. It doesn't tell about the feature of connecting with your friends. And just based on this one-liner, which was circulating within the company, but not only outside, the product was built, and people within the company were developing different features as well. So for example, I don't know if you're aware, like the influencers were removed from the platform, and many different advertising campaigns were created with this sentence on the back of the mind. So those are the 2 frameworks. Normally, I would ask you guys to put in the chat, the sentence about your company. And I think if you want to do it, it will be great, because maybe you will put the sentence about what you do. Somebody else will see it and will want to engage with you because they build something similar, or they look for the product that you're doing. So please feel welcome and invited to add in the chat one sentence, either within the framework 1 or the framework 2, about what you're doing. And also it will be a little exercise for you, and maybe it will be something useful in the future. And then
we can invite 1 or 2 people on the stage to say out that sentence, right?
Yes, absolutely. I can
Right.
I can give you guys a few minutes.
Yeah.
We have time. I cannot see the chat, and I don't know if you will be still seeing.
Oh, I can see the chat, no problem. You go back
Okay,
to
so
the
we go ahead.
presentation.
Yeah, I'm just seeing my presentation.
If you can go back to the presentation. So we have the first from Satish Kumar, Satish, founder and CEO of Barrier Intelligence from Qatar. They're building an AI native process safety management platform for oil and gas industry to see the truth and vulnerabilities of process safety barriers. And yeah, it's a deep tech company, and I think that we'll invite Satish to have a quick word maybe at the end of the presentation.
Sounds good.
Then we have Nathaniel. We build MVPs for next generation of unicorn founders. That is framework 2. Nathaniel said it very simply. We build MVPs for next generation of unicorn founders. And then we have Wei Jiang.
And this is giving us the character and the solution. We're still missing the
Correct.
problem and the
Correct.
success. That's why I say it's easy, but it's not so easy.
Correct. We have Llama. We are an AI powered platform made to bridge the gap between education and employment, build their professional identity from ground up, even if they have no prior experience. That's Llama Abdullah.
Okay.
Then we have Maria Andrianova. We use neuroscience to help businesses to understand their employees with precision so that the employees get happier and the company reaches exponential growth and stability. Maybe in a very good way to, in the wellness space. And the fifth one we have, we are the most efficient way to show the world what do you do in immersive VR, which is framework 2 again. Framework 2 can be non-descriptive, like you said, blank, blank. Framework 2 is very organized. So we had three, chats, 3 founders who thoughts were organized in framework 1, and we had 2 founders and another founder coming up who are more in framework 2. We help composites lose weight and get stronger. So I think a great interaction here. Thank you everyone for this interaction.
Thank you, everyone. And yeah, well, you can guys screenshot it. I will also send you materials afterwards. You will be able to go back to that. Because as I mentioned, very often you think that you have a full one-liner, but you're actually only having a problem and solution, or only the character and solution. So it's really tricky, to add all the parts and make them very short without overcomplicating. But I have another exercise that you can do while you're creating your one-liner and while you're creating how you communicate to customers or investors. And this is another good example that I like to show. Is a company called Raycast, which is a kind of an app, a plugin that is connecting all other apps, giving shortcuts to everything what you have in your computer. And within this company, they were working with a framework, literally asking one simple question and trying to get very deep into the bottom of why they exist. So the magic question is, why does that matter? And this way you go from the features to understanding the meaning to building your positioning. In the case of the Raycast, they started with the features. So Raycast prevents you from switching apps. This is information. And they ask, why does it matter? So you stay in your current task. Why does it matter? So you avoid the distraction. And they're just asking and pushing beyond and beyond. And they realize it's not only about the productivity, it's not only about being efficient, but it helps you to get into the flow. And probably most of you know, when you're in the flow, you're fully immersed, you're having this time of uninterrupted work. And this is why this software exists, to help people get into the flow to achieve the best on themselves. And then based on that, they started creating different taglines and different phrases that we're using across the website, marketing, and investors document, like let's say, the more sexy one, the shortcut to everything. So that's another framework, another exercise that you can do. And I think the idea is not to ask yourself, what does it matter, twice or 3 times, but ask yourself 15 times, just getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you can still jump to the higher levels, but you will get the real overview of the meaning of what you're building. So let's get into the deeper part. We have already our one-liner. Let's get into the building the full story of the company. And before we start building the story, in every single story, there is a character. So you really need to understand who is the hero. And I think that the most important point here is something I will circle back to the previous part, to make the customer the hero, not your company. So ask yourself the question and understand who exactly is your customer. Just one customer, just one group of customer, one niche. And probably you building the different products, product market fit, really finding your ideal customer persona and so on. And I give you another example why this is so important and how you can actually direct your communication towards one group and still attract the rest. So this is a company called Incredible Health. It's American marketplace for health professionals and hospitals. So basically, the hospitals are posting the jobs. The healthcare professionals is like LinkedIn for healthcare, for the medical industry. And on the website, for example, just on the homepage, the first cover sentence, it's helping healthcare professionals find and do the best work. Even here, they don't even mention the hospital, even though the website is 50-50 for both sides of the industry. So what happens? On the website, they are attracting only nurses, only healthcare professionals. They have a salary estimator, they have a lot of freebies, a lot of courses. They just attract them in all possible way. All communication, all the marketing materials are towards the nurses. They sign up 10,000 people per week. But again, as I mentioned, the hospitals are the key player in their business and they don't communicate to them. Because imagine where the hospitals are going to find the best talents. This is the answer. This is the website. So you don't need to try to target with your communication many different customers, many different groups at the same time. Just focus on one, and this will help you avoid getting tangled, in many different ways, many different stories. It will help you to create one base story that you can share with everybody. Okay, so we know how important it is to have this one character who will be driving through our story. Let's get into the story structure. And the structure that I will give you here, it's something behind every movie, every book that you love and remember, childhood book. It's always exactly the same. So our character wants something, they face a problem, there are some challenges on the way, and they meet a guide. And here the key point, the guide, it's you, it's your company, it's a solution. Together they get a plan, they take an action, they move on, they avoid the failure, there's always something at the end what may happen a little extra. And at the end, happy ending, they achieve success. So this is the story that you usually tell to the customers, that you usually tell in the marketing. For investors, I would say if you're pitching your fundraising at the moment, you still use the story, but you're changing a little bit what is what. So the hero, it's always your target customer. The problem, it is their problem, but you always communicate it in a different way, more of a high value, more of a urgency, more of a how big is the pain in terms of the big target group, not only the pain of one person. You are the guy, your company with the edge, the plan, how we're going to achieve it. It's not all the features that you're listing like in the regular story for the customers, but it's your go-to-market, it's your product logic. And the success, the success for the investors, it's a good return on investment. Or maybe if your impact company is the impact that you're bringing to the world. But for the investors, this is the success, not just the solution to the problem that our hero has. This is how you structure the story. And this is very important, that you always start with a story, whichever side you're on. And then only at the end, you end with a pitch. You end with a call to action. You end with a request. You end with the ask. But this is also what I'm seeing very often. People start too early with a proposal. And before they build the trust, before they engage with people, they already make some requests. So if you start with a story, you actually connect with a person, and you don't ask them to commit too soon, only after they are already or already when the trust is built. And yeah, so pitch always at the end. You start with a story, the same like you start with emotional, you continue with the features. And storytelling techniques. So there are many different techniques that you can use, and this will be related to the pitching. Pitching in terms of the pitching to the customers, sales pitching, but also pitching to the investors, because for sure there are a lot of founders among us, and you guys are talking a lot to VCs, to angels, and there are many different ways to engage them. So first of all, the most, let's say, easy one for everybody to tell, to write, to draft is the origin story. It's basically like why you build this company. It's your own founder story, which I believe that every single founder has a story, no matter how nerdy or how introverted it is. Even if it's a very complex deep tech or B2B business that you're running, there's always some connection of why you are doing it. And I think it's important that the story is true. It's something what happened. It's something what comes from inside of you, but also that the story is related to what you're doing. Because I have seen so many forced origin stories. Like, for example, recently I heard in the pitch somebody who said something like, when I was a kid, I always loved building Lego sets, and it taught me being creative and patient. Cool, very nice, but if it wasn't actually a design, or it wasn't construction, or it wasn't anything related to his little story, so it just doesn't add anything useful to the pitch. Or for example, another story that I heard, which is completely not related, the guy is saying, oh, I was sitting in Bali watching the sunset, and I just realized the life is so short, and I decided to start my startup in the logistics. Great. If there would be a part of a story that maybe, in Bali, Amazon doesn't exist, so you had a struggle and you couldn't order something that was necessary, whatever. But just telling a random story, it really doesn't help. So that's the first one. And another technique, it's what I've been also already talking about. It's showing the problem before the solution. It's automatically, without any forcing, building the story. And I think a very good examples are usually the TikTok or Instagram ads, where there's like, you're buying some products and you're watching you're scrolling through and you're seeing, some messy kitchen, and this is the organizer ad. Like, always they start with a serious problem, so you see like, oh my god, I also have this problem, and then you keep watching. So it's really, you're kind of maximizing how people engage and how long they stay with you. Then reverse storytelling. So depends where you are in your fundraising or in your building business journey. Usually when you're very early stage at the beginning, you're talking about your founder story, talking about your vision, talking about the big problem. But once you're getting to the later stages, to the series, the story, the personal story, is not as important as the big numbers, for example. And here you can use the reverse storytelling and say, for example, we just hit 1 million in ARR, and this is how we got here. And then you tell the story, how you build the business to that level. So I think that the good point is to understand which story each moment requires, and just match the stage you are at. Because if you're a little bit too visionary, but investors want more data, or other way around, if you're too data heavy when they actually want vision, you might really fail and underperform in what you're doing here, let's say fundraising. Dripping in traction, that's another good one. So once you start working on your pitch deck, and you have the slides: problem, solution, market, product, traction, financials. It all usually it's very disconnected. You just work on one slide, then you work on another one. So a little easy way to connect all of those slides is by dripping in traction. So instead of having one slide with traction, which of course you can also have, even in just a verbal way, just talk about what's happening. For example, when you talk about the problem, you can mention how many customers you've spoken with. When you talk about solution, you can say who is already using it. When you talk about go-to-market, you can see what already working or maybe what failed, and why you chosen the certain market. And this way, it all feels connected and real, not just the theory on slides, disconnected slide by slide. Next one, the use case demo. This is a good one because that's just such a good occasion for everybody to use the story. And actually, this is a place where people start listing the features. When you're doing the demo of your app, of your software, of whatever product you have, usually people just say, everything what is behind. But what you can use here, it's, for example, the day of life of somebody, and on the example with a human being, even if it's a B2B, it can be a day of life of a salesperson who is using your product and the use cases during the day or during his work, how those features are used. So you can really create a very nice story instead of listing the features when you're doing the demo. And then the last one, showing evolution and vulnerability. It's probably you heard many times that investors are not looking for founders who don't make mistakes. They usually invest in you as a person. So they look for people who are honest and who learn from their mistakes and who are proactive and who speak openly about the failures and how they fix the things and how they grow. Because this kind of honesty in the pitch as well builds trust. And, as we're talking before, the trust is just very important. So how to bring the clarity to complex B2B, SaaS, or technical products. And this is what I'm getting quite a lot. And I have to say that to pitch deck studios, usually come companies which are offering very complex solutions, and they really don't know how to communicate it in a simple way, especially the tech founders, especially people who are really really connected with a depth of a product that they're building. So I would say that within the B2B, you can also build a really good personal story, which usually would be more kind of, I was working for the company before and I solved this problem. Or I was working with the customers and I saw that many of them, they had the same problem. This is also something to remember. It's not something that happened once and you saw it once, but you kept seeing it. It's something that was repetitive. And I don't know, you were struggling with something and there are no tools available to do it. Instead of just saying that I'm passionate about building products, I saw there is a big market opportunity. There's always a little way to connect. How did you find the certain problem and why did you engage with it? A good example, Airtable. I don't know if you know the story. The founders they built it because they worked before for big enterprise companies, and they realized that most of the enterprise tools are just so complex that people still use the Google Sheets or Excel to create their own workflows. and they decided to build a table which looks from the front very easy and clean and easy to navigate, but on the back end it's as powerful as big enterprise databases. Another one, it's using the analogy or metaphors, like Activion that I told you about, using taking a photo on your photo versus a big database set. Or for sure you're hearing a lot of we are Uber for, we are like Airbnb for. Right away, it helps people to click, to connect the dots and to understand what are you doing in a very quick and simple way. And also circling back to the branding that I was talking about, by design is a storytelling tool. Your branding is a storytelling tool as well. So if the product feels elegant, clear, it really signals like for whom it is, who is the customer, and what is your point of view and who you want to attract. So you just attract certain people by that. This is another little framework which I will send to you guys and you can also use. This is a starting point which may sound a little bit too dry, but it really helps you to put in one sentence again, what are you doing for target audience, who are in which segment our brand provides with what is your distinction and how you're doing it. Again, easy sentence to fill that really offers what are you doing. So getting back to the founder story, as I mentioned, I feel that like every founder has a story worth saying, and there are many examples how they can be connected, even if your story is so personal, how other people can connect with it. So yeah, again, the Snapchat example with Ivan Spielberg, who actually in college, his co-founder content was shared on Facebook and it was very embarrassing and they just wanted to disappear, and that's why they created Snapchat. So the big idea behind creating it was the emotional connection, the emotional foundation, and the disappearing photos, it wasn't only the feature, it was basically a philosophy, like why it's happening. They wanted people to be more real, not to be ashamed, to be more spontaneous, to be more connected on a different, more human level. And then, and this is how it created the whole culture around the app. So just coming from a little personal story, but diving deeper. And then another one, which is Emily Levy from Mindtywell. It's a company that is creating this kind of a strap, which is monitoring the Lyme disease. So her story is sitting in the college at some lecture, and just she was very attracted to one hockey player who was sitting next to her, but he just looked at her like a walking disease, never wanted to engage. So well, the truth is that not many of us knows how it is to have Lyme disease, knows how it is to walk around the big tube coming from your arm, but many of us, for sure, if not everybody, knows how it feels to be looked in the way that makes you feel embarrassed, to feel, look down, look smaller, and this way, like, she connected with the emotion, the vulnerability of other people who maybe cannot experience and cannot imagine how it is to have a Lyme disease, but they can connect with the feelings, with the emotions that people with it can discover, can have. So one more thing, most of the stories and most of the big founder stories and most of the content that we're seeing, especially on LinkedIn or maybe even Instagram, it's American. And this is what I noticed quite a lot, because I also work with quite a bit, let's say 70% of customers I'm working with are American. But my European or Middle Eastern customers are very humble, are very shy. They just don't want to talk too much about themselves because they feel it's over promoting. It's self-promotion. But it's not. So it's really helping you to build the brand. It's really helping people to understand why you're doing it and build the culture around it. So I always tell people, just be more American. And another one, which is let's say a little story, which I want you guys to start introducing. So recently, instead of, as I mentioned, I go to a lot of networkings and I go to a lot of events, and usually people ask you, what do you do? Today in the morning, I don't know how many people from Dubai joined us. I was in the IFC at the event, and I was grabbing a coffee. Within 5 minutes, I was asked by 3 people, hey, what is your name and what do you do? The same sentence, like starting point, what do you do? And then you start responding, what do you do? And very quickly, we are either engaged or not. And I started asking people, what do you do and how did you get there? Which helps you to, first of all, to hear another person's story. I built this product because of that, or I built this product, and my background is in filmmaking. And you actually, first of all, you make people to tell these stories, so you understand more of why they're doing the thing, and it's creating a nicer atmosphere and connection between two of you. And it also gives you the opportunity to answer the same question and to tell within the story, what do you do? So next time you guys go to the networking, just instead of asking, what do you do? What do you do and how did you get there? And I swear it works magic. So just the last chapter that I have prepared for you, the storytelling in crisis. And I think it's important because crisis is not only the moment that, let's say, it's a general, it's a world crisis. It may be many different things. It may be the PR crisis. It may be somebody, maybe something went out online. Maybe people started really rewriting your story and rewriting the idea that is behind your product. And this is also a crisis that you need to respond to. And usually when the things go well, let's say in the bull market, it's easy. The storytelling, it's easy. You just sell your vision, the big ambition, bold future, the transformation, the growth, it's a momentum. Everybody is cheering. But it's really more difficult when the things go wrong. In the crisis, you sell resilience. You show why you will survive. And usually what people do is they panic and they go 2 ways. Either they just go silent or they go defense. And why none of those is good. If you go silent, you just let other people fill the void. So you don't say anything. Other people will start talking about it, or other people will start just imagining what you would say or what's going on with your company. So if you're not communicating that, let's say we have a plan B, or we are pivoting, or this is our strategy to survive, people may think, oh, they just don't have anything, or they just fill the gap with what you may be doing. If you go defensive, it also doesn't work well, because it's you're losing the trust, what you were talking about before. So and usually in the crisis, this is a moment where people are watching more than ever, more than in the good times. They watch how you respond, and that's why the storytelling also matters here. And it matters both on the internal, but I'm going to talk about in a second, and external level. So how you're communicating to your customers or investors, or maybe future investors, and also how you're communicating to your team. And why it is important how you're communicating to your team, because your team is your employees become your external narrative. So what you're sharing with them, if you're transparent, it's also what they are sharing with the world. With the world. During the crisis, either, let's say, worldwide, global, geographical, or within your company, the anxiety increases, the productivity drops, and the retention risk. People are not sure what's going to happen with their job. So if you keep the internal story of who we are, keeping the core of it, and also looking into the future, building the story together, people align around that, and they feel more loyal. And it also prevents the rumors and the noise, which, as I mentioned, within the silence, people just feel the void. So yeah, I think wherever you are, the crisis moment may happen for anybody. Even, I would say for many of us, even like my company, the AI storm is also a little crisis. Are creative agencies going to survive in the age of AI, solving all the problems and doing all the creative work for us? So if you have a strong story within, if you have a strong mission behind your brand, why you're helping customers and how you're helping customers, this will help you to survive with whatever it's coming. So guys, that's it, what I had prepared for today. I don't know if Samir, if you would like to add something or go back to any moment. I know that I'm usually going pretty fast through the things.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things were actually covered pretty well, with a pace that everybody could understand and comprehend. I think that was important. And I think you also allowed some space for them to kind of rethink. I personally like the final closing part, which is the crisis, which as founders, every day is a crisis. In certain scenarios, COVID was a long-term crisis. The current ongoing situation globally is a crisis. But for a founder, I think every day is a new day, and he or she has to deal with crisis. Maybe it's within the company or it's external to a customer. So I think building that culture of resilience within the organization, from the beginning, when you start your company, becomes more imperative. I think that's the key learning. um, what we're gonna do is we're gonna share the recording post the session. So if you and you'll definitely have our contact information as well. If you want to reach out for any further information, or you would like us to kind of host similar sessions, we would love your feedback. But Ada, thank you very much for such a inspiring session, I would say. I think not only designing a deck is important, but a lot of founders even miss their own introduction in the deck. They become so attracted to the problem solution slide that they forget to introduce themselves, and they can't build credibility. And I've seen this with many founders. Even large organizations fail to actually mention who they are and how they grew to that level. So I think understanding that value chain was clearly communicated in today's presentation. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone joining from every part of the world today. 11 chapters and counting. We really thank all the chapter directors, the co-directors, and the entire community at Startup Grind for facilitating this. And and look forward for more conversations like this. And have a great weekend. We're approaching the weekend in a couple of days, and so have a great weekend, and kind of think through all what we presented, and tell a good story which sticks. That's my final conclusion. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ada.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, let's stay connected. I'm happy to connect with everybody on LinkedIn. And if you guys need a second pair of eyes, you need help with your story, either it is for investors or for customers. As I mentioned, I know how busy you are building incredible products, and I just love to support founders who are doing very cool things. So however I can help, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.